We start with some NBA tales from the couch. Oklahoma City, another win against the Celtics. Scoot the awakening. Also, some other nuggets that I have for you. We also do a little Ceruti, who would you rather have? We taped this before we saw Cooper Flagg go down with a severe sprained ankle. So that's the alert. NFL free agency. More on what's next for a bunch of different teams, and just talking football with Willie Colon, and life advice where we didn't really answer any questions. We're going to start with a little Thursday Tales from the Couch. I'm not going to go through the entire schedule of last night because there's a really important game, a potential NBA final. So I don't know if it's Thursday Lobservations, but we'll come up with some kind of title that I'll probably forget about weeks later and then never say it again. So Oklahoma City wins at Boston last night. A lot of you, I'm sure you watched that. Thunder without Jalen Williams, and the Celtics without Porzingis, who last played on February 26th. He's played 32 games this year. Obviously injuries, but this illness thing is very strange. So, you know, there's the kind of default whenever Boston loses, well, they don't have Porzingis because Porzingis changes who they are with the 5-out stuff they can do on offense and the rim protection. We've covered a lot of that stuff. And when they're fully formed, Boston feels like the default favorite on FanDuel as of today. Boston's plus 185 for the title. Oklahoma City is now at plus 185. Cleveland's still at plus 500. I think that has more to do with Boston being in the East necessarily than who FanDuel thinks Cleveland is as a team. When it was at plus 700, I actually bet it because I was like, that just doesn't seem, that just seems like a massive amount of value. Even if you're just going to hear so many people just look at Boston and go, well, they won it last year. Cleveland's still sort of newish. Oklahoma City's are younger, you know, all the stuff that we've been talking about the last few weeks. But I kind of land on, I think Boston's the third best team in the NBA. So let's go through some of the game. There's score versus feel, which I talk about all the time. The score can be close, but how does the game feel? It's 33-30 at the end of the first quarter, and it didn't feel like a three-point game at all. Boston took 22 threes in the first quarter. Paint scoring, 18 zip. Oklahoma City. Boston took 36 threes at the half, most in any half in NBA history. 63 for the game, third highest total ever, 32%. And that shooting just completely fell apart for them. So we could get into the variance part of it. A 3 here, 3 there. Boston gets the win. Everybody feels a little bit different. Okay, maybe, but I really want to get back to feel. Other than the third quarter stretch where Tatum got it going and Boston was attacking, considering how far away that they start, it feels like Tatum will have moments like, all right, we need to be more aggressive, meaning just kind of looking around at his team. But other than that, there's just everything from Boston starts so far away in a game like this against a Thunder defense that is among the best, if not the best in the NBA. Statistically, it's the best. So if the first action gets cut off, there's just a lot of ground to have to cover as the shot clock starts to check down. On the other side of Tatum is Jaylen Brown, where I think, you know, whenever you look at some of the perimeter matchups defensively, like how many teams will have a couple perimeter guys that feel pretty good. When Cleveland plays Boston in the playoffs, which I expect would happen, you know, Jaylen's going to have a much easier time of it because there's going to be a priority of Tatum, which is always the priority, especially he initiates so much offense. Whereas against the Thunder, because at least they have some people you can throw at him. And look, you could switch into Case and Wallace if you want to. You can switch into SGA a little bit. And Aaron Wiggins, as much as I love him as a role player, I think that there's some sturdiness issues where if you want to try to get into him a little bit, he's probably going to give up a little ground there, especially against somebody like physically with the body of a Jaylen Brown. But in this case, you know, Brown's numbers now against the Thunder, it feels like a real thing. Sean Grande, who does the radio call for the Celtics, been doing a really long time, is great. He posted something where over a 31-minute stretch coming off of the first game at OKC up until I think it might have been halftime of the game last night. 31 minutes of basketball for Jaylen Brown against the Thunder. Minus 21, 0 of 11 from the floor, 0 points, 0 rebounds. If you look at the two games Brown's played against the Thunder, 39 minutes per game. He's averaging 15.5, 4.5, 2.5 on the standard stats. The shooting splits are 38% from the floor, 9% from three, with 2 free throw attempts per game. Fouled out last night. You know, my rule against Oklahoma City that I've talked about in different games where I've just been so impressed with them defensively is if you dick around with the basketball, you're going to pay a price. And Jalen does have a little bit of the dick around decisiveness where you're not going to just be able to sit there and work dudes in the paint and have extra time. because their help instincts are incredible. So, is it just 2 games where Jaylen Brown wasn't good against the Thunder, or is there something specific to this matchup? I believe it's the latter, where you just have to be more decisive. And I think the only time you really saw that from Boston is when Tatum got it going there in the third quarter. To be fair, he's also fasting. So I don't know if that played into last night because he was a little slow. He was losing people defensively. And then, the 6th foul, they needed him big time in that spot. And it was kind of a late defensive reaction, more of a rotation thing. I didn't think necessarily it was a mistake. But at that point, with 5 fouls, 6 minutes to go, just under 6, you got to let that one go. So the Chet stuff, on the positive side of the story last night with the Thunder, I thought it was amazing. And it's not just the straight box score stuff, but just the different things that he can do. The options that he gives your offense because of his size and because of his skill set. You can run your offense through him, and he's great with the passing. When they run the double big, that means both of your bigs are like, get him an entry pass, run some stuff around him, and they're probably going to find you. You trust their passing. He's also somebody that, you can't be late on his 3-point attempts. And I know it's simple to say, we'll close out against anybody who's a decent shooter, but there was one play in particular where he was kind of coming up, not fast break, but the transition of possession. And I love those shots in there because the defense isn't really settled. People are kind of scrambling to their matchups. And, Chet was trailing the play a little bit, and it just looked like Boston wasn't looking at him as, we got to make sure we don't take our time getting to him because he's such a good shooter. Size mismatch, it's not so much get it into the post on some kind of switch, but if he gets switched up on the perimeter, his handle is good enough, even at his size, and it can still look a little clunky because he kind of bends down and backs you down and everything, but the shit works. And he gets to the hoop, and he gets good looks, and his touch is terrific. They ran a handoff with their 4-5, so it was a 2-man game with their center and power forward where Chet was like, throws into Hartenstein, and then Chet ran a cut where it was like a fake dribble handoff, and then Hartenstein turns around and like makes the layup. And you're going, dude, you're running this with your center and power forward. That was in the first half of the game. So he also can switch on the perimeter, and he's long and athletic enough where, there's times maybe you feel like Tatum going downhill and getting into him is a matchup that you like, because again, Tatum is so spectacular with this stuff. But there's a lot of perimeter guys, and Chet just kind of Venus flytraps you. You're not going to get by him. Even if you think, okay, I'm smaller and I'm quicker and it's the 7-footer, I should be able to just dribble past him the entire time. And then depending on whether or not the Thunder want to go with the double big, you've got Hartenstein at least allow, like I've now said his name 2 different times again. You've got him in kind of this floating thing where he can still be a little bit to the paint if you feel like you need him to come over and help. And I think that was also part of the thing that Oklahoma City was willing to give up last night, is that even though Horford was 6 of 12 from 3, that's 12 3-point attempts from Horford. It felt like a lot of times Oklahoma City was like, we might be okay giving up that shot, trying to stay solid defensively here. So the free throw disparity was massive. But I don't want to hear it, Celtics fans. When you take 63 threes, when you take 22, where are the fucking free throws supposed to come from? Sometimes you guys have to be honest. Now, like any game, you can find a couple clips to try to post something and prove your point. SGA had the BS going a little bit there in the fourth quarter. You got one call that was a little nasty, but there was contact. There was another one where he tried to fall down that was gross. But, what about all the other ones? So when you're that far away, and you're not really putting just a lot of pressure, there's not very much attacking other than that third quarter stretch that I pointed out. Like, where do you want the free throws to come from? So I don't have any sympathy for the free throw disparity argument on this one at all. There was also something I think Boston was trying to do where Peyton Pritchard was the primary defender on SGA in the fourth quarter. And you could look at it and be like, what the hell are they, why would you have all these perimeter guys? And you would do that. My guess is that they felt like Pritchard at least could compete enough, but then also removing them wanting to switch, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling. Like, they actually ran something where they switched into Tatum, and then SGA's like, what the hell am I doing here? And then I think he kind of brought it back out and reset everything. And Pritchard actually, isn't a bad defensive player at all. It's just a massive size disparity. I'd rather have size on SGA, but my guess is that they felt like if SGA were going to play it straight up, then they would know kind of how to help, as opposed to if it's a switch and then they start swinging the ball. They're scrambling a little bit. I don't know. I'd like to throw a few things at SGA and try to trap them, but they ran a trap at them on one play in the first half, and Oklahoma City dissected it immediately and scored again because they're just really smart. So, yeah, the rebound rate thing that we've always looked at with Oklahoma City, how bad it was last year. It's 23rd on the season with Chet back. They're 16th. So I also think in the double big that they run out there, it's not so much the total number of rebounds. It's just, is rebounding more difficult? And I think it is. So look, man, I know Porzingis being out is part of the Boston argument with this, but if you're getting 6 of 12 from 3 from Horford and what he does defensively, the Cornette minutes, I didn't feel like he was being attacked the way he was attacked against Cleveland, where in the Cleveland loss, you're like, okay, but those minutes where Hauser and Cornette are going to be attacked, is that what they'd be doing, especially in a fourth quarter against Cleveland? Probably not. But I didn't think Cornette was any kind of like defensive target last night for Oklahoma City. So you've got all of that shooting, which is what you would pencil in for Porzingis, which would be great, 6 of 12, and you'd expect to win that game, but that's just not the case. So yeah, like this is 2 games against the Thunder, where going back to the one in Oklahoma City, Thunder outscored Boston 29-12 than you have last night. I think the Thunder are better than them. I think Cleveland's better than them. I'm willing to change my mind. I'm open to change my mind on that, depending on how I feel going into the playoffs. But yeah, I know what the odds are, and I know kind of the default position of feeling good about Boston here because they're proven, but they feel like the third best team in the NBA right now. Let's cue the music for the NBA Today OGs. Scoot. Boy, did we have fun last night. Scoot Henderson, 30 points against the Knicks. He got Portland back into this game, 20 points in the fourth quarter and overtime. He had some ridiculous layups. The attacking, the downhill stuff, the tough to stay in front of version that I fell in love with before the draft. 8 points in the last 106. He hit 2 free throws. I haven't wanted a second free throw that bad for somebody I don't know in a very long time. If you look at the last 3 months for Scoot's shooting splits from 3, 44, 38, 38%. It was even down. He was 4-4 last night, so I was looking at it before the game going out. He's kind of dipped here again a month. But he was just so impressive that Chauncey Billups kept Simons, who had a tough shooting night. He kept him on the bench from 6:30 to 1:16 in the fourth quarter and then kind of shuffled him in and out. But Mikal Bridges, the hero of this one, the game winner in overtime, hit 33 for total point. Weird phrasing. He had a late pull-up dribble, too, that reminded me. Like, I went to Nets Celtics after he had first been traded a couple years ago, and it was just this unleashed offensive version of Bridges that we just never got to see in Phoenix because there's so many other priorities on that offense. He was the fourth option all the time, right? And then you start seeing this dribble where he's staying with the dribble longer, and then he's kind of working into this free throw pull-up thing, and he's doing it at this angle that's just kind of tough to even stay with him. He had 26 a game 2 years ago with the Nets after that trade, and then it went down to 18, and then everybody's worried about his shooting, and they're like, what's up with his form and all that kind of stuff. I just liked it for Bridges, and I know he's had some kind of up and down games this month as they figure out who they are with Brunson being out. We're a week away from an update on his ankle, but at least with Miles McBride, you're like, okay, you should still feel really good about this Knicks starting 5. So I just liked it for Bridges because I think there were some kind of doubting moments, and you could go, how are you giving up all these first rounders for this kind of guy when he hasn't made an all-star? I really liked him. And I thought that Nets stretch 2 years ago proved that the ceiling for him offensively was at another level that he just didn't have the opportunity for. And maybe it doesn't always show itself at times with all the different players that you have in the Knicks that are really good. So, like I said, we're a week away from an update there. Mitchell Robinson, 6 games back. Wanted to sort those defensive numbers for you. So back on February 28th today, the Knicks are 5-3. So not 6 games back. He's played in 6. The record is at 5-3, right? They're third on defense. I don't know if it's small sample or what, because we've been knocking the Knicks defense all the time. So are they figuring out something defensively with Mitchell being back here? Because offensively, they're actually 26th, which is really weird. So I think it's Brunson being out, then the next 2 games, not necessarily the greatest schedule, after that Lakers thing. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that there's some numbers here that you could potentially be excited about. I'm just not sure how real they are right now. Minnesota was the game I thought I was going to be talking about a lot this morning with their game at Denver last night. And there just really wasn't much to break this down other than a very impressive win from the Timberwolves. This is 6 straight, their first 6-game win streak since the end of 23. I think prior to last night's game in Denver, you could argue that it was schedule related because it was Phoenix, it was Philly, it was Charlotte, it was Miami, San Antonio. But winning by 20 at Denver, and I noticed no Aaron Gordon, but that's a really nice win for a Minnesota team where it's important to remember the way we talk about different teams. I have been incredibly disappointed with Minnesota because I would say going into this year, coming out of the summer, even without Towns, I had expectations of, can this team actually win the West? I mean, they're obviously looking at the standings last year. They were right in the mix for a 1 seed and getting the Western Conference Finals. And even though it's been up and down, defensively, they've been really good after the first couple of weeks of the season. So that hasn't really been the issue. I think it's been, what do you expect from Randall? They're winning games, the reincorporation of him. DiVincenzo finally looks like he's in a bit more of a rhythm. They have these rookies that they're playing that are just dogs defensively. Rudy was missing some of that time. Now he's at least back to give you the option to try to muck up some of the stuff defensively, because even if you hate him, there's value in him against certain matchups. So looking at the 6-7 stuff, they're chasing Golden State right now, the percentage points behind. I don't know how that 5-6-7 is going to match up. By the way, Memphis is your 2 seed again, 4 straight, couple threes from Ja. So there's not really much in this game other than Denver couldn't really shoot it that well. Jokic was the only thing going offensively. Jamal got it going there a little bit, but there's something to look at here because there's like Jamal hunting that happens. They're picking up Jamal Murray full court. So it felt like Finch and the stats, like, let's just wear him out, because if Jokic just goes off, that's fine. But if there's no second scorer, this team isn't going to win. The alarming thing, and this kind of brings it full circle back to Boston as I finish here, but the default positions of teams that have won before and having the best player in the world, like Jokic, I'm guilty of it. Hey, it's OKC, but then it's, hey, who's that second best team? Well, it's probably Denver. It's maybe because you don't know what's real with LA. Maybe you just don't like Memphis, which seems totally fair. You don't like Houston's offense, except for attacking Jabari Smith last night. I know the shooting numbers aren't great. Don't look at the box score. I love what I've seen from Jabari Smith lately. And by the way, remember when people were like, hey, Ryan Dunn can shoot? Anyway, the Denver issue that I don't know is solved with Aaron Gordon's return, as important as he is to them. Having another night after we just watched the back-to-back against the Thunder where Christian Brown's primary defensive assignment is SGA, and then last night it's Ant. And look, he's a nice player, and I think in theory, you'd hope that maybe Peyton Watson could be that, but I almost like Peyton Watson more as a rim help guy as instead of just kind of some lockdown perimeter guy. There are not many options for them, and so if you're projecting out Denver, who gets the benefit of the doubt, which we all understand, and I'm admitting that I've done that, are they really going to survive against these MVP caliber number one offensive superstar options without something better there defensively for them? Because that was just a week of watching who they have against these top players. You're like, I don't like this. We're going to bring in Ceruti real quick for a little NBA game. One of the best parts about the tourney is when an underdog takes down a powerhouse. And right now, those upsets can get even better because all this week on FanDuel, if your underdog bet wins, you'll land even more winnings with a profit boost. This is your chance to ride with the long shots, the scrappy teams, the ones that refuse to go quietly. Whether it's St. Peter's in that run where it feels like the entire basketball world rallies around this team they couldn't even name a couple weeks ago. We had NC State last season. That didn't carry over. Whether it's VCU, George Mason, or if you're of a certain age, Villanova is an 8 seed winning the entire thing against Georgetown. That's what the tournament is all about. And if you've been waiting to join FanDuel, there's no better time. The app is easy to use, and when you win, you'll get paid instantly. Just visit FanDuel.com/Ryen, R-Y-E-N, to download America's #1 sportsbook today and back your dog of the day with a profit boost. Because after all, anything can happen in March. Must be 21 and older and present in select states or 18 plus and present in D.C. Opt-in required. Wager of at least plus 100 odds required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. This is something we're going to do and put it in the vault here because I guess we've done this before. So the concept is pretty simple. You've heard it before, but who would you rather have of these players? I think it's fun to kind of do it maybe twice a season. So we'd had this list, and now's the time to get to it. So there's no prep. I don't even know what these are, which is, I think, the way to do it today. Yeah, that's the mood I'm in. So let's go for it.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we've done this twice before. People seem to like it. We did it at the beginning of last season. So I think like October of 2023. So it's been a while. And I went back and listened to it this morning. Some funny stuff in there. We did a Steph versus KD one, which was good. We did a Luka versus Devin Booker. We did a Luka versus Embiid. That was coming off that like weird Luka season where it was like, is he actually that great? Like the efficiency's bad, like the usage rate's too high. And then obviously he goes to the finals. So good times there. Seems like those are obvious now. We had an AD Embiid one too.
The part of this that's funny is that in the moment you'd be like, and then just looking back, which I think is important. Like when you're thinking about different trades and stuff, like for real, how much of a swing there can be, at least perception wise, of like where a player is. Wait, so what was the Luka one? Did I pick Booker?
No, we all stuck on Luka. We picked Luka.
Thank God.
Yeah. Because it was like people were starting to jump off the bandwagon, and obviously Embiid's coming off the MVP, and it was like, oh, what do you think?
The way you said that, I was like, I know I'm the biggest Booker guy probably going nationally, and then I'm like, did I say that?
You like, kind of were an Embiid guy, though, but that was years ago, and then it's slowly sort of, as he's becoming less and less available and reliable.
Yeah, I think well, the thing that's funny for my Embiid journey is if you go the full circle part of it. Now, granted, he didn't play the first couple of years because Hinkie didn't want him to play. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that, but then he plays the 31 games. So is this the start of a career for a guy that you already have to make an extension decision on? And I had, infamously said, I don't think I'd want to give him the extension. I think I'd want to trade him. And I've got murdered for years. So that guy wins the MVP, at his best. He was easily a top 5 player in the league. But then I think I was the first to just start going, why are we just assuming this guy's like a top 5 guy, doesn't play all the time? I don't think I'm allowed to do a full circle like, hey, I was right about that 6.5 years ago when I said it about Embiid, but I'm less wrong. I'm not right. I don't think that's right when you get a guy who gets the MVP. But I don't know what it was. It was a couple possessions against the Knicks in the playoffs where I know what his stats say he did. And then I think the Olympic foul hunting is when I finally was like,
you're out.
Really over it. Yeah. Anyway, this is your segment. So
it is funny because, and I'll get to them in a second, but so we were maybe going to do this like maybe 3 months ago or so, and I wrote down some names, and even from there, it's like, wow, these are stupid. Like I had a Paul George or Jalen Johnson, and that was kind of when Jalen was like on the up, and Paul wasn't a total disaster yet. And it's like, all right, am I trying to get ahead of this? I had
3 months ago, that kind of makes sense. But go ahead, I'm interrupting.
No, I had a Trae Young Halliburton one because Halliburton kind of wasn't awesome, and Trae was kind of figuring it out again, and both those look stupid now. So
he was passing the ball up the court.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see which ones. I think I got a couple here. And then I got a fun one at the end that's like a bunch of players that I want to throw at you. But why don't we start nice and easy? Because I feel like this is kind of the battle, maybe with Luka for the second best player in the league. But let's just start off. SGA or Giannis? And by the way, we should do parameters. This isn't 5 years. This is probably like the rest of this year, the playoffs, maybe even into next year, like a full year, maybe. It's short term.
Giannis. SGA's, he's going to win MVP. I understand, but I think I was looking at MVP voting last night, and I consistently, I think over 3 years, it's not like I've had a vote for a decade, but I think I consistently have Giannis higher than other people do. And, I would say if you asked anybody else that, they would, I don't know who else would say Giannis.
It kind of does feel like we've forgotten about him, which is shitty. Would you say Luka over SGA too?
No, not right now. I mean, I think peak Luca is better than peak SGA, but there's just too much unknown of, what will Luca look like. All that time off, the kind of up and down, he's on. I think the best version, again, I've already said it, so I don't need to repeat it. The best version of Luca to me is a better basketball player, but I would feel way more comfortable just signing up for whatever this SGA is going to be the next couple months.
Yeah.
You?
All right. How about Donovan Mitchell or Ant Edwards?
Wow. The Donovan Mitchell conversation, like he never gets brought up as MVP,
Nope.
right? Yeah. So like the SGA will look at their record, look what they've done, because that's going to be the deciding factor against Jokic. But then I never hear Mitchell ever. So I don't know what, I mean, granted, Mitchell's numbers aren't SGAs, so maybe it's as simple as that. But I was thinking about it the other night when I was trying to figure out my vote. I was like, let's dig into the Mitchell thing, because there's also like a minutes thing with him where he's just playing less because they've been beating teams the way that they have. And I probably should double check that stuff right now. So look, I'd like Ant better. So I'm just going to say Ant, even if I can understand that right now is the worst time to say that. You?
I think I'd go Mitchell. The Ant thing is like, he's always going to have it with like defensive side of the ball. But I don't know. There's something about Mitchell right now. Like, do you think the Cavs are as good as they are if you just swap those two guys?
So SGA on the Cavs and Mitchell
on Donovan on the Wolves. So if you put Ant Edwards on the Cavs, are they where they're at now?
Yeah, I think they'd be fine. You don't?
No, I don't think they wouldn't be fine. I just think there's something about Mitchell right now that's just kind of he's on a different level, I think, than Ant. The step back thing from losing Cat, the team maybe is getting a little bit too much in my head, but there's just something about Donovan and the way he's playing. And I think Ant is the more well-rounded player. He's bigger. He's obviously a little bit younger, which I don't think really matters that much in this exercise, but I'd give a slight edge to Mitchell right now. I think I got to give credit to Mitchell right now. But I think most people would take Ant, and I think I wouldn't argue with you.
Yeah, I'd rather have that size. I'd rather have that defense.
Yeah. So, all right, this is a fun one.
I mean, the SGA stuff, if we're bringing that one back to, I mean, the advanced stuff for where SGA and Mitchell are right now, it's the advanced part of it. It's like not even close. Again, what SGA is doing, at least on some
people like free throw merchant. I hate that. But
yeah, yes. He takes more free throws. He plays 3 more minutes a game, and he's still you feel like Cleveland still has to share it a little bit more. But the Mitchell advanced SGA, if you put that up blind resume, you'd be like one's a 1 seed and the other's like a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. It's not even close.
This one might be a slam dunk for you, but I want to ask it anyway. Mobley or Cat?
Mobley.
I think most people would say. I mean, Cat is having a pretty unreal. I mean, for a Cat doubter, and I've really never been a Cat guy. Like, you got to give him credit this year. He's certainly a significantly better offensive player than Mobley. I think the Mobley thing has gotten better, obviously, from 3, and he's definitely a little more intriguing. I mean, I was kind of captain of the zag on the Mobley thing. I wasn't just zagging for the sake of zagging, by the way, guys. I think that was a legitimate zag. Like, I was worried about the offense. But I do think you're right. Like, if you want to win a championship, I don't think either guy's a 1, but Mobley anchoring your defense is probably more valuable than what Cat brings offensively, right?
Yeah, Cat's been awesome this year. He's going to be second team All-NBA. I don't really think there's any doubt, as we kind of did it in pencil with Bill and I on Sunday. I was just looking at him like, yeah, I think it's just going to be Cat's slot there for second team. But I don't see Mobley getting attacked. I don't see anybody going, this is how we want to close out this game. As great as Cat is offensively.
His efficiency numbers are outrageous. I mean, like, he's like just to play the devil's advocate Cat side. Yeah. He's been unreal. No,
I think a lot of people will think we're crazy for this one, because at least Cat gets you buckets. He stretches everybody out. That pick and roll stuff, all of those numbers with he and Brunson when that's rolling. But Yeah, neither guy's a one. You can run your offense through Cat. I still don't even think you really would run your offense through Mobley, where a lot of this stuff is kind of off of something else. But yeah, I'd rather have Mobley.
Yeah, I think your team is probably better if Cat's your best player, but I'd rather have Mobley if I'm trying to win a championship.
Seriously, ask it this way. Say that trade were on the table. Who would have like a quicker no, the front office? Like if Leon Rose and his staff were talking about it versus Kobe Altman with Cleveland, like who was sitting in the room as they're going and like, we can do this right now. Which group is getting to know quicker?
Although, what'd be funny? I mean, Cat with Jared Allen is a pretty sick fit.
Yeah, maybe that's actually perfect.
But I don't know. I think it's Mobley. I think it's Mobley. But hey, credit to Cat. I'm happy for him, man. We've probably this has probably been a hater Cat podcast for a few years now, but happy for our guy. Here's a fun one. This guy,
I like the term truther.
All right, truther's fair. I'll give you that. Realist. I think Devin Booker has been in one of mine every single year that we've done this, dating back to 2022. So let's just keep it rolling. Cade Cunningham or Devin Booker?
Oh, man, you're really messing with me. Okay, but what are we talking about? Because you didn't really say 5 years out, but it seems like the future is part of it.
I said the next maybe calendar year, end of next year, even give it like 18 months, even less than that, really. But yeah, 15 months.
So it's what?
It's not a 5 year. Like obviously, like if you're building a franchise, Cade's a few years younger. But no, I mean both guys are kind of in their primes. They're going to be in their primes for the next 2 years. So which one?
Yeah. The efficiency stuff for Booker's taken a bit of a hit, and defensively, he's never really been a guy that you're like, I think it's effort and competitiveness. It's the stuff that I always like about him. But if you look at some of the box score stuff, it's just not really there. Give me 2 years of Booker. This has been an unbelievable year for Cade, but Booker's played in the NBA Finals. He's 28.
This has been a Cade Truther podcast. Both you and I have not sold any of our Cade stock over the years. I've been adamant about that, and it's just good to see it coming. The fruit is coming to bloom here.
Yeah, and he's been great with Chauncey Billups this year. He just saw it. He saw it in him.
What about, actually, let's just do this quickly. Cade or Mobley? Same draft class.
Cade.
It's Cade, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just because, I mean, as much as we all love Mobley, and there's going to be, the All-NBA thing, if you were going to use that in the cap part of it, like Mobley's probably making a team, but getting me a bucket when everything's falling apart, that's probably still the most important thing. I mean, it is. I think it's the most important thing. Like if you don't have that, you have no chance in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Agree. All right, I got 2 left. The last one's like a bigger one though. So this one is the
Giddey, Ty Jerome.
Nope, not Giddey. Although you could do it if you want. I'd still take Ty. Although Giddey, yeah, good stuff.
Shooting numbers.
Finally free of the stringent OKC system. He gets to spread his wings a little bit in Chicago. I've never been a big Giddey guy, I'll be honest. But
I think at his size and his playmaking, it was really, really fun in the beginning, and then he just became somebody who couldn't hit a shot. Although he might be in the 3-point contest next year if he keeps this up.
Magic will give him $30 million a year. Who knows? Let's see. This one is the I don't want this guy on my team all-star debate. Bradley Beal or Julius Randle?
Wow.
I feel like we need to and throw like a little bit of a, which one would you rather not have? But this is, you have to have the guy for, say, 2 years. Who do you want?
My God. Yeah, like we're not even talking about like the money or anything, just like the dude.
Just
honestly, I think I'd rather have Randall. I mean, I watched a lot of last night's game. Phoenix is such a fucking mess on defense. And they look around, and look, there was a play where there's a clip of Beal like looking around, and it wasn't Beal's fault on that one. But there are times with him where he's just completely upright. Like, all right, the point guard is coming in, the screen is set up, you know what's about to happen, and you don't know necessarily like, hey, which side should I play or which side should I favor? But you know what's nice? Get into a fucking stance. Like prepare. Pick a fucking side. And he'll just be completely upright with no interest whatsoever. Like even if you guess wrong, at least you guessed. And I think that guy is so comfortable just cashing a check. Like Randall's going to not get back on defense. He's going to hold on to the ball too. Like we've already covered all the stuff with Randall that I don't necessarily like, but I think Randall still competes.
He cares. That would
and
be
I don't think Beal is probably one of the most talented, least competitive basketball players I've ever watched. Like hell, Jordan Poole competes.
Yep. I think Randall, this is like the I can fix him girl, when she's trying to look for somebody to marry. Like Randall's like, if you could just channel that energy the right way, like I know that you care. Like it's not always in the right way to winning basketball games. And that to me is, I'd rather be frustrated with that guy than the guy who just, I don't even notice is there half the time.
Well, I think that's the right answer. Man, that was a tough one. You have one more?
One more, and this is a big one. I want to do Cooper Flagg, because I know you've watched some games, versus a bunch of under 25 guys in the league right now. So Wemby's a no. Ant is a no. Paolo or Franz?
Paolo's a no. Franz is a maybe. I'd say Franz is a yes.
So I guess we should give a background on the Cooper Flagg thing, because I haven't watched a ton of Duke games. I've watched highlights of him. I guess the prevailing thing is that he's a pretty good defensive prospect. Obviously, he's huge, and it's like, will the offensive side of his game ever really kind of get there? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think what was in the 4 games that I've watched now with him, the part that's been most impressive is he can play defense. Like he can hold up in switches. And he had a play, I forget. Yeah, it was a North Carolina game where ultimately North Carolina couldn't score against them down the stretch. And he actually kind of guessed wrong on something, but he was the low man. And there was this window where it looked like North Carolina was going to get this layup, and his recovery to get over and block the shot was just one of those clips where you go, okay, this is special kind of shit. His aggressiveness is probably my favorite part of it. The fact that he can bring it up in transition. He obviously can finish. The shooting has been good. It's not, I don't know if it's like, look, the numbers are really good. The free throw part of it's good. So he's going to be a shooter in the NBA. But I love the passing, man. The passing for him. Like he got doubled and he found like the perfect skip pass. He's like swung it to the other side. Just kind of some of the stuff that you don't really expect to see from somebody this young. So I think there's just a lot going on there with him.
So if Cooper is Franz, that's a disappointment.
Yeah. I don't love the comp stuff, but the way I talked about Chet with the open, where it's like, man, this guy can kind of do a bunch of different things. And if he gets switched onto a perimeter guy, you still like your chances, but he's not as big as Chet, but he's certainly sturdier. And, 38% from 3 as a freshman playing in these high-level Duke games with a team that has a chance to win a national championship. So I shouldn't even really question any of the shooting stuff because it's only going to get better there. I guess the passing, his playmaking, his vision, the fact that he's a willing teammate, that's actually some of the stuff that I fell in love with Paolo, where I was like, he could just take every single shot. And it would still probably be the best option here for Duke, but he doesn't want to play the game that way. And that's why I'm just so excited about him as a basketball player. So it's not the same thing where I think you're going to be running Cooper Flagg and high pick and rolls and then being like, all right, dime dudes up all over the place. Because I think he's different than that. But yeah, there's a lot there for somebody his size with his athleticism. And I think he's got some motherfucker in him too.
So I had Chet down too. So Chet, would you take Cooper over Chet?
Only because of the injury part of it.
Okay.
But that might be, that could be the one at the end of a playoff run where it's an absurd answer because Chet might be on the cusp of like putting together something really nice here in big games.
I love Chet last night. God, I love watching him play.
Him. I'm so glad you appreciated it last night.
I've always been a Chet, but I've got shit from Magic fans left and right because I've always loved Chet, and I'm happy we have Paolo. But like, I just always loved Chet.
Could that be something where if you were to there's a segment that exists that I think we've talked about where you go, is this question answered? Right? So you could get into what, like Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker. Has that question been answered? Yes, I believe it has. I believe it has.
On that one.
Has the Chet Paolo question been answered?
The answer is still the same. Both teams, I think, are more than happy with the guy they got. And if you swap them, I think it wouldn't work as well. The Magic need Paolo. And I think I don't know how Paolo would work hypothetically with Thunder. Like maybe he'd be sick. He'd be an upgrade on certainly be an upgrade on Jalen Williams. But I don't know. I think both teams are happy. Both teams played hard.
Both teams played hard.
Yeah. Well, is there anybody else? So Kate, you probably take Cade over Cooper Flag, right?
Yeah.
Mobley.
Yeah. I'm always going to have just a bit more resistance than maybe other people would on dudes that I've already seen do it and do it at a high level that are really young. And I'm like, okay, I think at this point I know exactly what I'm getting, as opposed to that frightful unknown of, what if Cooper can't quite figure out where, but I think Cooper's the kind of guy, even it depends on the team and where he is in the hierarchy of the offensive options and that kind of stuff. There's other things that he already does so well that if he's not 20-10 as a rookie in the NBA, it could still be really impressive. And that's what I think is so exciting about him.
What about, let's just run through him quick. Scotty Barnes, Cooper Flag. Contract not involved.
Yeah.
Although maybe you do put the contract in there.
If there's a time to just not even debate it, would be now, because people are just so down on Scotty Barnes. Okay, where was he in the Ringer Top 100?
I just had this up. Hold on. He's still pretty high. I think 43. He's high. There's a lot of Scotty Barnes people at the Ringer. I'm not one of them. I don't get a vote, though. So
you don't have a vote?
I shouldn't get a vote. Come on. It's fine.
Why not?
Because I'm not part of the NBA crew. I'm just a guy, If we were doing a Ringer soccer World 100 list, then yeah, sure, I'd be upset. But
Notting Hill.
A couple more. Amen Thompson.
Right. Yeah, that one's God, it feels so stupid to say no. And meaning, because what's the best? I think Amen is so special that maybe the ceiling part of it, but I don't know. I think I think so many of us that love League Pass have fallen in love with that dude.
Yeah.
Maybe too much, but I'll say no, which seems really fucking stupid.
I can do this forever, so we don't have to name 1,000 names, but I just kind of want to get a baseline of where we were at.
Yeah, good. Right. And then when Cooper's putting up 27, remember you wanted Amen Thompson over
yeah. Because of a couple months stretch on League Pass. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but dude, there's not many players like Thompson who can not score and feel like they're impacting the game more than anybody else that's out there. And I love that kind of stuff. Maybe not as my number one scoring option, but I do appreciate it. Very excited to talk to our guy, Willie Colon of SNY and Breakfast Ball on Fox Sports. What's good, man?
What's going on? Good seeing you, brother.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I haven't talked to you since the New Year. Has it been that time?
I don't know. I mean, we got a lot going on, but we didn't even really necessarily have a plan. I was like, let's just talk about a lot of this stuff and what's going on. So let's start in your backyard, one of your stops, the Jets. I talked about it on Tuesday a little bit with Sheil Kapadia, and that it kind of fascinates me, how many people think Fields is still good. And you come from it, you played for the Jets, you also played for the Steelers, so I know you watch a lot of the Steelers stuff. What do you think went into this decision, and talk more about the anticipation in the city for what he's going to be next year?
Well, I think there's a lot of question marks just around Fields as a whole. I think when he landed in Pittsburgh, there was a lot of issues with his mechanics, his foot, his footwork in the pocket, his accuracy. He's an athlete. He does a damn good job with the ball in his hand when he's running. However, he goes 4-2 when he's a starting quarterback, and then he's ultimately benched by Russell Wilson. And a lot of people are saying was that the necessarily right move? But then you see when Russell got into the offense, you saw an upgrade, especially in the pass game for the Steelers. Nevertheless, man, I don't know if he's a bad quarterback, a good quarterback. I just know he's an athlete. And I know Aaron Glenn and the Steelers the Jets seem to have some form of optimism to allow him to be QB1 for the Jets, which is weird because I thought Tyrod Taylor was going to be the guy to at least be the bridge until they possibly go into the draft or next year's draft and get a starting quarterback. So the fact that they gave Justin Fields all that money, they must be seeing something or know something that we simply don't know. I think a lot of people are just up in the air about it and don't necessarily know how to feel. They just know they got a young, athletic quarterback who walked out of Pittsburgh with a winning record.
Did you ever have to work with somebody, that felt like this was their last chance at the position? Because I want to say myself. I feel like I had to work on myself. I feel like that was me in Pittsburgh, man, because I got hurt and I was playing right tackle, and then they drafted Marcus Gilbert, and I was forced inside to play guard. And I think my situation was more due to injuries, but I don't think I've ever played with somebody who was like, "Hey, man, if it doesn't work here," for offensive linemen. It's funny, my career, I was a defensive tackle, moved to offensive line where I played right tackle, then forced inside. If I didn't make it there was nowhere else for me to play. It was just like, bye-bye. You're just not good enough. So there is a sense of anxiety and a heightened sense of, man, I got to make this work. And, when I came off my second IR, I wasn't even forced to play right guard. I was moved to left guard, which was different for me because I had, most of my career on the offensive line, I had played the right side. So I really had to kind of change my mindset and my mechanics just to survive at left guard, which was tough, but I was able to do it. Were you as equally, I would imagine, more happy because when we had asked you about Rodgers and now he's officially a free agent, and you'd already talked about this, like this isn't the breaking news part of it. It's just the transactional part of it that he's gone. Do you think he has anything left for the next team?
I do. I thought the last couple of games for the Jets, he played well. I think once Olufashinu, their first-round draft pick for the Jets, was able to crack the starting lineup and replace Tyron Smith, he seemed more comfortable in the pocket. And at the same time, he was a lot healthier. Last year, he was dealing with a lot of knick-knack injuries. He was dealing with the ankle. There was a hip issue. There was a hamstring. Every week you looked at the injury report, Aaron had something. And I think towards the back end of the season, he started to feel and look more mobile, right? He was able to kind of evade the rush and get outside and make some of those off-platform throws. And then you started to see the numbers and his production kind of pick up. So which led me to believe, after watching him for a couple of games, that, there's still something in the tank. It was just weird that he just didn't have the chemistry that we thought he would have with Devontae Adams. Garrett Wilson and him seemed like they weren't on the same page. But overall, as far as him making every throw on the field, he can still do it.
If Mike Tomlin calls you up and says we can bring back Russell Wilson or we can bring in Rodgers, what would you say?
Well, to be honest, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers simply because I know Aaron right now can make every throw on the field. One of the biggest bugaboos with Russell last year was that he simply struggled with throwing the ball in the middle of the field. Everything was moon balls. Yeah, he can make the layups, but he seemed boxed in at times, and he took a couple bad sacks, which we knew that was his thing. But when he was decisive and deliberate with the ball, he was money good. I like Aaron. I like Aaron when healthy, and if he's able to stay healthy, which is the number one question, I think he'd be super productive, especially now that you have DK Metcalf and now you got George Pickens. And so they continue to put weapons around him. I think he can still make it go.
It feels like those last couple of games I don't know if it's changed your mood on it, but God, you were so over it about Rodgers the last time we visited. And I don't know if that was just what you saw on film every week, or I didn't know if that had more to do with his personality. Like, look, he rolled in there, got everything he wanted. They kept trying to double down on giving him everything he wanted. It didn't work out. If he still wants to play football, and if I were another team, like I'd go, all right, where are we at? We kick the tires on this. He'd probably do worse than bringing him in. So it seems like have you softened on the tape because you like the tape better, or have you softened on not having to talk about it every single week and his personality? Because it felt a little bit more personality driven than maybe it was filmed. Just I don't know. I'm asking.
No, you're right. I think I was just exhausted about everything. The fact that this team went into the second year and with Aaron healthy in this offense, especially with a revamped offensive line, I just expected this team to perform better. And they didn't with him in the starting lineup. And then you start to see him age week by week on top of the appearances on McAfee and everybody chasing the headlines after every interview he did, on top of all the headlines that were coming out of that locker room, man. It became exhausting. So, yeah, I was really bitter and somewhat exhausted from the fact that I thought he was going to be the savior for the New York Jets. And he simply wasn't. And sure, his first year he tears his Achilles. Nobody expects that, and everybody kind of gave him a pass. But overall, going into the next year, I just thought things were going to be a lot better than they were. And to your point, they gave him everything he asked for. So I was just more exhausted and disappointed that the Jets weren't in a better position. For that team to finish 5-12 with the roster they had felt like a huge letdown. And Aaron, we know he there's a lot that comes with him. He's just a different dog and a different breed. Overall, I'm okay with the personality if you're winning. The Jets weren't winning, so it just wasn't adding up to me in my head.
Is it fair to say that a lot of us completely overrate the personality of the quarterback and how much influence that has on a team? Let me back that up with a little bit more. When I think about baseball and travel and the time you're with guys, like if there are personalities that just aren't clicking and it's that many dudes traveling for that many months, gone that long, like it's tough. Like these are almost roommates on the road, even if you're not technically all in the same room. Basketball is a lessened version of that, same thing as hockey. But I think we lose sight of how 9 to 5 the NFL is.
Mm-hmm.
And, now with the schedule, with the extended game the last couple of years, so maybe it's 9 road games. Okay. You want to throw some of the preseason stuff in there. Okay, fine. But ultimately, most of the week, you're waking up in your own bed and you're going into work and you're at the facility and then you go home. So that negative personality, when it's around you constantly in the day-to-day of the other sports, I can see how much of a negative impact that can have on a team. But I wonder, if the quarterback, even if guys don't really like him or don't vibe with him, you're still not with them that much. Or am I dismissing that Sundays, that personality is still super important? I'm kind of going in a circle here on this, but I think it's at least worth pointing out the distance there are between personalities for an NFL team.
Which, listen, first of all, I think you do make a good point. NBA baseball is different because those guys are on the road for an extended period of time. You get to know a guy a little more intimately, especially when you're sitting around and he's on the phone with his wife and talking to the kids. You get to see the human being. However, when it comes to football, I think in particular, specifically about Aaron Rodgers, I thought he did a great job of, immersing himself into that locker room. When you see him and Sauce Gardner at games, when you see him at, different events with his teammates, and Aaron being 41 years old, there was this sense that he's going to be this cranky old dog in the locker room. That simply wasn't the case. A lot of those guys really took to Aaron Rodgers and got to know him, and I think he kind of opened himself up. I think everything we learned about him from a personality standpoint in New York was that he really wanted to be in New York. He brought the house. He was hitting the Knicks games. He was eating out. He was really kind of buying into the New York market and what it entails. And watching him talk to the media, he would get kind of snarky and kind of get agitated with some of the questions. But I watched every presser he did at the end of games. He handled it the best way he could. Obviously, everybody talks about that Mike Williams situation where he kind of, dumped Mike Williams over a hot bed of coals and kind of cooked him up. But overall, guys loved him and guys responded to him. And it seemed like, on Twitter and if you're a diehard Jets fan, there wasn't a lot of that core, meaning Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner and then on, really had anything bad to say about Aaron Rodgers. If anything, they were advocates of his and really wanted him to stay in the building. I remember towards the end of the season, I think Quentin Williams has a quote pretty much saying that he loved Aaron Rodgers, loved his leadership, and really wanted him to continue to be the Jets quarterback. So, and I think a lot of that happened was because Aaron opened himself outside the locker room by spending extra time with these guys and not just saying, hey, man, I'm here to win games. and I'm too old to be talking to you young kids. That wasn't it at all.
Let's look at some of the other signings here. Some massive money for Milton Williams, a defensive tackle here. Philadelphia, third highest average annual salary for that position. That's including Chris Jones, as in Tuesday pointed out. Like, Chris Jones is kind of all over the place, so I don't even know if he necessarily counts. Do you look at it as, I can't believe Philly let this guy go, or do you look at it as the fact that he was available should be concerning? You've spent $100 million on somebody who's not a household name.
Yeah, I think number two for me, the fact that you let a guy go who, very few people know, and he got paid on top of that. But I also think that's indicative to Howie Roseman and the powers to be in that building feeling like they're able to let a guy like that go and kind of reload. There's no question the impact that defensive line had in the Super Bowl and was able to kind of turn it up in the playoffs. It's just interesting, all these guys that are getting paid, man. Like, you look across, like, I look at—
Give me a couple. Yeah, give me a couple that you were like, whoa.
Bro, Javon Kinlaw. Let's keep it a buck, man. Like, let's keep it a buck. I watched that guy. I watched him all season with the Jets. And the fact that he got paid to go to the Commanders. And, man, I was like, man, I started, what's crazy? Every guy I play with or know in the league, we were somehow, I was, texting each other, and we were kind of like, man, can you believe this guy get this money and all this other stuff? But I instantly started rubbing my knees like, man, I know you got one game in you somewhere, daddy. You got something in you, just because it's insane. Like, you never want to, you always want to stay out of God's pocket, which I think I try to, especially when, listen, I've been on the field since 2016. So there's a part of me, there's part of this dog that I'm like, man, I could whip something up. I could turn on the engine one more time. But to see some of these deals, man, I'm like, damn, I got to have something to show off so I get some of that money, man. Because some of these guys, man, they getting paid. But listen, yeah, it's the market. God bless their pockets and bless them and their families.
Give me a signing you liked.
I mean, I like Darius Slay to the Steelers. I like that.
Do you like Metcalf in the trade?
I like Metcalf. I just don't know how those, between him and George Pickens, I don't know how those, those two personalities on the field and hostile situations, I don't know how that's going to happen. This is where Mike Tomlin's magic really is going to be on display. How is he going to, because I've seen DK Metcalf kind of lose it, if you will. And I've seen George Pickens lose it, both because they felt like they weren't getting the ball enough or they were getting slided in some type of way. But, yeah, those are, Slay I like Hargraves to the Vikings. And on and on and on. So those are things that kind of pop out right now.
Do you think the Steelers ownership hates Mike Tomlin?
No, I don't think they hate him, but I think they're ready to turn the page. I think, you heard Shannon Sharp say the other day that the standard just doesn't mean anything. It means mediocrity. And I think that's starting to be the running consensus around a lot of people who support the Steelers or are fans of it. It's funny. I was in Super Bowl, man, and I ran into a lot of my old teammates because everybody was kind of whoring themselves around Media Row and kind of, trying to shake hands, kiss babies type thing and find a door so they can walk through with their media career. But on and on, we were talking about the culture of the Steelers. At one point, it meant something, and now it feels like it's just something that you just say, and it doesn't have as much weight as it once did. And some of the stories I was hearing coming out of the locker room was interesting, man. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to have you give away secrets, but
no, but it was just I got the feeling that the old way and what I was brought into doesn't exist anymore, and that was disheartening.
Okay, were you surprised with the Chiefs' moves at offensive line?
In particular, going to the Bears?
Well, the Tooney one, the Tooney story is kind of funny, right? Because was it that Tooney was so good at tackle, or they were so desperate to not play the other guys? But then,
and I don't even think Tooney was good at tackle. I thought he was solid. I think he was what they needed at the time. I think he's obviously a better guard. Made a lot of hay there. I think he's 31 years old, so he's still serviceable. He still battle. He's all pro. And then the Bears desperately need talent on the offensive line. I think Ryan Poles did a horrible job of signing that one guard. I think it was Nate Davis to give him $30 million, and he's an absolute dumpster fire. And I think after watching Caleb Williams last year, they needed to protect the young man, or he was going to be chucking and ducking this year, and they couldn't have that. So, and they got Jonah Williams too, which I'm really happy about. So yeah, I think the Bears did a great job thus far of filling some holes in the offensive line so the young fella can hum.
I'm putting you on the spot here again. I didn't mean to do this to you all day.
No, it's fine.
Like Drew Dahlman at center, is that hey, this is terrific, or why was he available at 26 years old?
I think the question is, why was he available? I think that's what I think about it. Like what a guy who's 26 years old with that amount of experience, that amount of experience underneath his belt, felt like he would have been locked up right away, and he wasn't. So that's the first question that comes in my mind.
Okay, the Kansas City thing, though, back to it, is just the Jalen Moore story, that you're going to spend that much on a tackle that was a backup.
Yeah, but he was healthy for the most part, right? And I think he just at the level. I think that was pretty much it. I think it's hard right now to find quality offensive linemen who don't have that red flag next to the name, meaning injuries, right? Like I think about Morgan Moses going to the Patriots. Morgan Moses is a warrior. I mean, he's dealt with a knee fracture, dealt with enough injuries, but had to play through them. But I think he got like $11 million or $8 million to go to the Pats. And some people are saying like that necessarily doesn't help us, because if he's only able to play 5 games, that doesn't lock up our offensive line. So I think if you're a healthy offensive lineman right now who has enough starts underneath your belt, you're going to get paid. And we saw that across the league.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that might be the lesson in all of this, is that it's not even the escalating cap space. Then when you start to factor in the essentially like your cap space credits that you get that you can roll over, which I feel like no one ever talks about. So even if the cap is in the high 200 millions, there's teams north of $300 million as far as not cap space, but their cap number. And then it just turns into like, hey, who's available out there at offensive line? And we've been talking about this for years, and just that college football is not supplying the NFL with enough offensive linemen. I don't know if that just becomes a generational thing. Like you had even suggested something like they're running into the Steelers guys, be like, hey, it's different there. It's different there. Maybe it is specifically very different. So I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to argue with you about the team you play for with guys that are still like in the mix. But I also think that there's a very like cyclical thing of once people are replaced and as things evolve, it's like, oh man, it's not the way it used to be. It's not the way it used to be. But specific to offensive linemen, and I think you're right, when you look at some of these numbers on some of these guys and whether or not it's people you trust or watch the film or looking at some of the grades on this stuff, it's like, I can't believe like the Packers spent this much on this guy, like all these different signings. Is it?
Where did Kappa go? I think how much Kappa got paid too. And I think he's a solid guard. Alex Kappa from out of the Bengals. I forgot where he went, but he's a guy who I thought was good, but he was,
Raiders. So, right. That was a much lower deal. But I remember him with Tampa and thought he was a beast.
I thought he was a dog too.
Yeah. Like I remember him far more with them than I do Cincinnati. But is there, the guys that you talk to, is that divide happening? Is that position being diminished as far as NFL ready guys in a way where, receivers can line up, corners can just go, defensive ends just go? Like the skill that is needed, the development that is needed, is it so thin that that's why we're seeing what's happening with the market with that position?
Well, I think right now, I think from the neck up, a lot of these guys aren't being taught the fundamental, I guess the foundation of what it takes to be an offensive lineman. Like I was extremely fortunate to have offensive line coach Damon Wroblewski, who not only taught me the mechanics of being an offensive lineman, but also was able to sit me down and teach me football, right? And then once I was able to get into the league, I was fortunate enough to sit in the room with Alan Fanikin and Jeff Hardings and understand how they looked at defenses through their lens, understanding shells and rotations and all that stuff. I think through this time, a lot of these offensive line coaches have kind of pretty much dumbed down the offense. And listen, this is what you do. This is all you need to know, instead of seeing the big picture. So I think that by the time these guys get to the league, and compared to, especially where they come from, I think once they get in there, man, a lot of these guys are pretty much starting over from the neck up as far as learning the game and how to play the game from an offensive line perspective. And I think that hurts guys. And I think, yeah, you can be big, fast, and strong, but there's still a lot to the game you have to understand for you to be effective, especially depending on the scheme you get drafted into. And, a lot of guys, it's just a different game. A lot of these guys are playing more in the 2-point stance. You don't see a lot of guys getting into the 3-point stance anymore. I think leverage, handwork, being able to be, eye discipline, where you put your hands and how to see things on the field, all those things matter. So how you're taught in college and how you transition into the league matters. And I think that's why you see good offensive line men like Tristan Wirfs and a lot of those guys, you can tell they were taught right, not just from a mechanical standpoint, but from the neck up, they were taught the game the right way. That's why they're able to succeed.
Is Penei Sewell your favorite offensive lineman right now?
He makes it sexy. If I'm a fat, chunky kid who wants to be a running back, put on Penei Sewell tape, and you got a hybrid there. The fact that they hand that man the ball, the fact that he is allowed to run the route and still, get a rep in at tight end, if you will, and then go back to offensive line and play tackle. I think, yeah, I'm a fan of him because he seems like a hybrid offensive lineman. I love him. I think he's made the position way more sexier than I think I've ever imagined. And if I have, my son, if my son grows up to be an offensive lineman, I'm like, there's a chance you get the ball in the game, son. So stay ready. which was never said during my time, ever. The only time an offensive lineman got the damn ball, if you were like on your way out the door in retirement and they just wanted to give one to the Gipper, like, hey man, you're about to retire next year. Let's do something fun with you. That's no longer an option. You're actually a threat within the offense, and we're seeing it with Penei Sewell. So I love watching him. And he kicks a lot of ass. So I love everything about his game.
Did they ever do that for you?
No. I think the closest I ever got to the ball was against the Giants, my Super Bowl year, man. Ben got I think it was a sack fumble. The ball rolled in front of me, and I picked it up. And I'm actually picking up the ball, and I see green pasture. In my head, Ryan, I'm about to go 60 with this thing. Like I'm about to take this thing to the crib. And I have it in my hand, and I'm running. I actually see my right guard, Darnell Stapleton, throw a block. He actually gets the guy, and it opens up even wider. And, man, some dude, I don't know who he was, I got shoestring tackled to the point where my leg gets kicked up in the air, and I probably averaged a half a yard. It was embarrassing. But in my head at that time, me having the ball in my hand, I was going 60, and there was nobody going to catch me. And I got shoestring tackled right there on the spot. Embarrassing. Didn't feel good at the moment. I got teased relentlessly about it.
The NBA loves tribute videos. Raul Neto got one from the Wizards, which, I always like to try to keep track of the more surprising tribute videos.
When did that become a thing, by the way?
Well, it's less than 10 years, the frequency, which would lead to like videos where you're like, that guy's getting one. What always shocked me was it might be like a player that has some cachet, but he motherfucked everybody in the building, hated it, wanted his way out. And you're like, here's a tribute video. And so I don't know if the PR people are just really nice. I don't know if it's a front office thing where they're like, everything's about positivity and appreciation. Because some of these NBA guys, specifically in the NBA, because if your number one guy, it goes wrong, it's a nightmare. So there's teams that just straight up told me stuff like, we just absolutely kissed this guy's ass. The point is, I think a lot of it is just, even if we don't think we should give this guy a tribute video, let's make sure that we do it so that we can't be criticized for not doing it. It's just that I believe the standard has like nosedived of this guy's getting a video. Did you get a video when you went back to Pittsburgh?
No, hell no. When I went back was for the 10th anniversary for our Super Bowl, and I was lined up with the rest of my teammates, and they kind of call your name, step forward, you give a wave to the crowd, and kind of step back. I personally didn't get one. I think my only tributes I get at times is me either, getting in a fight on the field where somebody's like, hey, I remember that game in Baltimore, or our playoff runs at, different games, especially our game against San Diego. I think we did well as an offensive line. But, I personally did not get a tribute video.
Okay. I'm looking it up now. You never played at Pittsburgh when you were with the Jets, were you?
No, the Steelers came to me. Yep.
So that's why you didn't get the video. You didn't get to go to Heinz.
Bro,
So we can't say
you.
that it's.
I love you for the thought, but I'm pretty sure they ain't looking for me. Like I thank you. It warms my heart that you think of me in that light. I'm pretty sure the Steelers would have not. They wouldn't even acknowledge my presence. So I don't even think the Steelers do that, honestly.
It doesn't feel like a Steelers thing, and it doesn't really feel like an NFL thing, unless you're the quarterback, or maybe you're going to be Randy Moss or something like that.
Yeah, because I remember when I was on the Steelers, I remember when we played against Chris Hope, and he was at the time with the Titans, and he was a part of that 2005 Super Bowl team. He got nothing. Lawrence Timmons, when he was with the Dolphins, got nothing. Joey Porter, when he transitioned to the Dolphins, got nothing. So those were all significant pieces of part of our team, and they got nothing. So I doubt Willie Colon was ever on the list of getting anything.
Did you ever pull when you were playing tackle?
Yeah, I pulled all the time. I forgot the name. We had I was on the right side, so it was like 35 Chief, and that's when I pulled. It was a tackle pull. Yeah.
So all right, so there's something for your son.
But I didn't have the ball in my hand. I was going to find work. It's different. It's different when you get the ball in the hand. Like I always pulled. I always had pulls. I always had plays where I was able to pull. But there was nothing where Penei Sewell, where he's coming around the bend and he's they're handing him the ball to go get yards. Like that's a dream. I would have loved, especially the genesis of my career. I played in the triple option. I was the fullback, right? I was a 250 pound fullback as a freshman in high school. And I was averaging like 4 yards a clip. And all I was doing was running dives. I loved it.
I guess I think of the Penei Sewell pull as just a different level of pulling. And so like where
it makes
you're
it look
able,
sexy.
The amount of ground that he covers as quick as he's out, like when you look at it and you're like, he's already outside. Like, are you kidding me? And so I think there's certain guys that they're just never going to ask. And I'm glad to know that you're one of the guys that was asked to do that, though. But you're saying at right tackle you were pulling, not at right guard.
I was pulling at every position I was thrown in. I was pulling at tackle. Right. I was pulling at guard. I was a guy, especially on trap plays and counters and all that stuff. Yeah, I was coming around. I was coming in there.
I miss Lawrence Timmons. I used to think he was a beast.
He was a dog, man. Especially young Lawrence Timmons was viciously good. How fast he was. Well, he was a receiver in high school. And then he converted to a linebacker when he got to Florida State. And then he watching, and then he was a prick too, which was wild. Like me and LT would get in fights in training camp all the time. And I loved him. But he was just one of those, I don't know. You ever play with somebody who's like really athletic, but just a numbskull, right? You just can't explain it. Like he's really good, but just has like this prick mentality. He was like that because he would like blitz and he would try to like earhole you, but like in practice, you know what I mean? Like LT, why are you trying to earhole me in practice? Like we're on the same team, and I get it. Like I would do dirty things to my teammates at times, but this is like Thursday, right? I'm trying to get ready for Sunday. I don't need a concussion before Sunday. And, we got the Titans or Ravens. But he was that type of guy, man. And then if he ever got you, he would kind of look back at you and laugh. Like this little sneaky little third grade giggle he would give you. And I'm like, I'm about to fight you. Like, because now you piss me off. And I know you know better. You've been here long enough to know you shouldn't earhole your teammates. But he was good, man. I remember our game against the Chargers. And this is when LaDainian was there. No, LaDainian was, I think it was the Jets. Whoever it was. I think it could have been the Chargers. Anyway, LaDainian was out in the flat, man, and LaDainian was wide open. And LT's on damn near on the other side of the ball, on that side of the field. And he shot out his shoes and made a tackle one-on-one with LT, LaDainian Thompson. And I was like, damn, this guy's damn good. Like he was a damn good linebacker, man. He was tough. And he played his ass off. So I was always a fan of his.
He looked great in a uniform, man. He looked like somebody that should be back there patrolling stuff. There's just so many Steelers over the years. You're like, that guy looks awesome. I mean, it seems like a factory on that side.
Brian, Mike Tomlin would, before, I think it was either before we started training camp, would kind of go through this this montage of guys who were putting in the work during the offseason. And I remember this one picture of LT with those, those Macho Man Randy Savage glasses, like the reflectors, and no shirt off, and like these tights on in sand doing farmer carries. And he looks like shredded. And he goes, if you're not putting in this type of work, then this is a picture of success. If you're not putting in this type of work, we don't want you in the building. And I remember saying to myself, I know I was putting in work, and I still can't look like that guy. Like, yeah, I know I was doing my job. I was doing my part. I mean, he looked like he looked like a Greek god. It was intense.
Yeah, I think the other part too is I loved him at Florida State too, and he looked so nasty in that uniform.
Yeah,
and you know what his middle name is, right?
I don't know.
Olajuwon.
Was it?
Yeah.
Damn. How do you know that?
I just looked it up. Because I was trying to figure out how I got stuck on this Trey Hendrickson thing, which was the whole point of what I wanted to close.
So his initials is Lot?
LOT, baby. I don't even know.
I wish I knew that when I was in the locker room with him.
Yeah. I think somebody must have just been a huge, I imagine, I don't know, maybe there's like, yeah, my dad was a huge Rockets fan. Let's close on this. The Trey Hendrickson market has been described as lunacy, crazy, absurd, that teams want to pay Trey Hendrickson because I think he's outside of that top tier of the edge guys that we constantly talk about. But sometimes I wonder if that's
the top tier.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's completely unfair, though. I think like Micah at his best, Miles at his best. I think there'd be more people that would go, look, I'd still rather have Myles Garrett over that. But Trey was so good this past year. And it's not like he's lined up with a bunch of other all pros. It feels like a lot of times he's doing it on his own. Although one of their tackles I like. But
Sam Hubbard did a good job. I liked Hubbard. At times, I mean, I thought he was good. At least
you're right. He was good. It's not the Philly D line, I think, is maybe the point that I was making. And now I've done a bad job of the point. But the whole thing is that, sure, teams would pay him, right? He's 30. He's a stud. It doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. I'm just surprised. Maybe it's just the Cincinnati history and wanting to pay people, so I shouldn't be surprised by this. But okay, you've now shown him that he can make the money he wants to make somewhere else, but you clearly aren't interested in getting rid of somebody that's this good. I don't understand the strategy, is the point.
Well, I think a lot of reports, the trade demand is ridiculous. I think the Bengals have really done a bad job of really, realizing that, one, he wants to get paid. Two, he's been trying to get paid for some time. This isn't the first time he's kind of knocked on the door. And three, he's all they have. Like, I don't know. I mean, Jermaine Hubbard's retired. Jermaine Pratt is gone. I think Von Bell's gone. Like, they don't have a defense. Like, he is the defense. I don't understand how you don't make it work with him, especially because I think they were 3-8 in one-score games, right? Like, they need help defensively, and he's the only bright spot. I understand wanting to pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but right now you don't have a defense. Like, you need something. You can score all the points in the world, but if you can't stop anybody, you're pretty much going to repeat what happened to you this year. I understand Joe Burrow's a damn good quarterback. I understand what Jamar Chase can do. But I also understand that Jamar Chase was extremely efficient because they had a damn good number 2 in T. Higgins. So I understand what you want to do offensively, but you got to figure it out defensively and letting go Hendricks. I don't know how you make sense of that. Like, you need him on your defense. So, and like to your point, he hasn't slowed down. Like, even I remember Hendricks when he was with the Saints, he was a dog then, and he's only continued to be a dog. So it's definitely a head scratcher.
Good stuff, Willie. It's always great to catch up. Enjoy the Big East tournament this weekend.
Yes, let's go Johnnies.
Let's go Johnnies, who, as of taping this right now, we're up 18-3 on Butler.
Nice.
And we, it's going to air later, but we'll keep people updated on the St. John scores throughout the rest of this podcast as that game is tipped. You're the best, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. State Farm helps you score an affordable price when you choose to bundle home and auto insurance with the Personal Price Plan. You can choose the insurance coverage that fits your needs at a price you can afford. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with a Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts, and savings and eligibility vary by state.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life advice email address, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We told you we'd update the Johnnies throughout. Still up on Butler, number one Johnnies fan. Kyle, sorry, I tried as hard as I could to try to move this around. But it sounds like your day is doomed anyway.
Yeah. But, hey, this was a good game to be busy for. It's 21-7. Rick's giving him the business, so we're all's well that ends well.
Ryan really did try, because yesterday he's like, can we avoid, taping during that 9 o'clock? I'm like, trust me, Kyle's already got one taping and then he's doing Bill at 10, so it doesn't really matter. But it's all good. But he
Selfless.
did try.
Yeah.
Seriously, yeah.
I would like to not do the show today so I could watch the Johnnies, but I think it's a little harder for me. That would have been great if I just said, hey, I don't ask for a ton of time off, but can we skip Thursdays? I should just do that one day.
Yeah.
Maybe not. How about I don't?
Especially if this turns out to be a dud, that would have been just a bad look. Which is looking like it might be.
What if it were the Big East final and it was just whatever my schedule was? You know what I would do is I would go, hey, I'm not taping at 5 o'clock at tip off and we're just going to tape another time. So I wouldn't ever miss a show. But it would be funny if you just like getting older and just over it in life or all your money's secure and you just go, hey, I'm taking Thursday off. And they're like, what's he doing? Imagine Bill talking to Ceruti going, what is he doing? He'd be like, I don't know. It's a 9 a.m. tip against Butler. Yeah. It's the first Big East. He's like, he's missing a show because of that. Be like, I don't know. He's getting real comfortable down in Manhattan Beach.
It does make me reminisce about the days, though, in like high school. When you skip school for the tournament. Man, to be young. Good times.
Did you ever, I think I did it one time. Like during college football, every now and then I would get sick and maybe I'd use 2 sick days the entire time I was at ESPN. I think I remember specifically, like there was a day I was legitimately sick. There was another time I got sick when I was in Louisiana, which no one believed. And I had to go and get like a shot at an urgent care place. I was just done. It was the kind of thing I was eating dinner at Ruffino's the night before we were supposed to do something. And it was just an inhale. And I immediately felt something in my throat where I went phrasing. I just was like, I am sick. I am immediately sick. That also happened to me on a flight to Dublin once, but I just inhaled and went, I'm sick now. And I know there was one day, there's probably some stuff, like some family stuff going on, but I just woke up one day and was like, I'm fucking over it right now, today. Like, I'm not coming in. I think it's the only time I've ever done something like that. And it was the most incredible, freeing feeling. Just, it was power, and it wasn't like a tendency. So nobody was ever going to be like, what the hell happened? Like, I just woke up. I go, I need a fucking day. And I went to the movies.
Wow.
Yeah. Middle of the day.
How old were you?
I don't know, like 40.
Nice. Good for you.
It was, and I felt guilty later that day. I felt pretty guilty about it, but it was just at a moment where I woke up. I go, I don't want to talk about any of these fucking guys today.
An existential moment. You're like, what am I even doing?
Yeah. Like, oh, this guy's good. This guy isn't.
Yeah.
And we're going to be back tomorrow to talk whether or not this guy's good or this guy isn't. Check us out at 1 Eastern.
Every once in a while, I'll have like, not an out-of-body experience, but something like that. Especially like sometimes with college stuff, it's like, I mean, they're good, but they're not great, and those guys are bad. And I was just like, if you like dull it down too much and don't like refine it, what you're actually listening to, you're like, what the fuck is this? But
it had way more to do. Now that I'm remembering everything, it was like on the phone. Like everybody deals with stuff in their life, and it was on the phone with kind of a family thing, and then I was like up all night, and I just go like, I was pretty tapped out. And then I woke up, routine, shower, and then went Nope. I go, not today, buddy.
Wait,
And
so you
because
saw a
when you
movie?
never, when you never
What
do
did you go
it,
see? Do you remember what movie you saw?
I think it was the Dumb and Dumberer.
Oh man, that's. I wish it was better than that. But Solo, Dumb and Dumber. Wow, in West Hartford.
There's like 3 A+ jokes in that one, I think, right?
There was, I think they're all in the trailer.
Right.
Wait, so Dumb and Dumberer was the fake sequel. So Dumb and Dumber 2, right?
I was only aware of 2 of them, but maybe am I missing one of them? Huh?
Yeah, they misspelled 2, and that came out in so I nailed it. It was 2014.
Damn.
So Ray Netchie may go back through my work log right now. Like, you weren't
Raise us to HR.
You weren't sick that day. I think when you don't do it all the time, it's a really powerful feeling. So we're giving you life advice before we even get started here. All right. Let's get to a couple emails that we will now read. We had some feedback on the Target shirts. People were very, very unhappy with giving.
Good fellow. Good brand.
I
couldn't remember
they
the
were
name.
going to give me shit again. I'm like,
Oh,
man,
no,
I've had enough. God damn
You were shit free, unlike last episode.
Yeah.
Sup, dudes? NBA comp cooler than Reggie Miller, but way less cooler than Michael Jordan. Okay. Just want to apologize to Beachfront Russillo for being such a broke boy and getting some of my clothes from Target. Don't hate, fellas. As someone in their mid-30s who has decent enough style, they get some affordable, nice-looking clothes or casual wear and work. Some of us regular folks go there for more than a pack of undershirts. Context, I'm a vice principal. My wife works in education. We do decent enough, make about $175K a year. We just had our second kid. Ceruti, I would say prepare for the initial holy shit, this is hard phase for about 1 to 2 months until you get in your groove. Yeah. As a result, paying 2 daycares has tightened up the budget, so I'll often shop at Target if in need of some casual tees, dress pants, or athletic wear. I can tell you to be a tough conversation with my wife if I grabbed a $50 Legend shirt and showed her Russillo's modeling photo and said, but this podcaster has his own line. All right, this guy's, I'm right in the crosshairs. Anyway, it's all in good fun. I know you've worked your ass off to have a nice life, so no offense taken if you want to flex here and there. Just don't sleep on fashion by Target. So
I like their plain long sleeves. Not bad.
For the record, I do have some like the Goodfellow brand Target shirts, and they are good.
That's
shirts.
what he recommended.
Also,
he said Goodfellas is great. Oh, mesh shorts.
Yeah, so I bought that when I went there. I bought like a pack of white tees, and then some of these like thicker Goodfellow white tees that are actually really dope. And then these mesh shorts. I like a mesh short for some reason.
I love a mesh.
Speaking
short.
of Legends, I have one pair of Legends ones, but I wish that there was more color variety. I only have the black, but they have some pretty good ones at Target if you're looking for that kind of thing. So what's up?
I'll tell you what, that just reminded me. I've given Ceruti next to 0 Legends items. Have I ever done anything for you? Did I get you the Russillo hoodie?
I don't think so. I do have Legends gear. I bought some stuff before I even knew that you were involved too. And then you were like, oh yeah, this is the brand that I deal with. I was like, oh cool. I got an Instagram ad. But yeah, like if you're looking for,
that gets me too.
They look great.
If you could send us
great.
a promo code, Ryan, even that'd be cool. I mean, I've got like 3 pairs of shorts. Even a promo code would be sick.
You know what I can do is I can
Coupon?
get you guys. I'll get you guys some gear sent out to you because I think I realized as you were talking about it. Yeah, look, I deserve shit for that. I originally thought Euro Ceruti, though, it surprised me a little bit. Like I feel like he might be a little bit more of a rag and bone Vince guy if you were grabbing shirts. I didn't realize that they were undershirts, but I don't think you're a Tommy Bahama guy.
I'm not.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Yeah.
Kyle's got the Tommy right there. Yeah. Tommy D back in the cut. Love it. So yeah, I thought it was more like a designer shirt thing, and knowing you the way I did, it surprised me. The undershirt thing made it a little more, but you know what? I deserve getting heat for that. Whether or not my assumptions were that Ceruti, had a floor, and that's irrelevant in the grander scheme of things. That I was wrong to say that and to question you on that. I thought it was going to be a decent enough joke, and people were not happy about it. Totally
people
fine.
Love Target.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to stay off Target. People.
I still think the graphic tees are garbage at Target, though.
I would agree.
I think no logo. If you're going no logo, it's totally passable. But
I got a jacket I wore all winter. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like a zip up gray, like fleece deal. Wore it every day, every single day.
All right, Ceruti cashing in on the public points right now. That's great. How much? I got the Sherpa thing too.
I promise I'm not farming for this, but I really don't care. But I do. Yeah, it's I got a couple numbers from there. Not afraid to admit it.
All right, so I had to go to it. We're a little behind here, but I promise I'll try to stay on Kyle St. John's schedule. Can we get an update on that score, by the way?
They cut the lead to 10, Butler, so 31-21.
All right.
So there's the first half.
There's a men's Wicked official logo T-shirt that's on sale. It was regularly between $29.99 and $35.99. Now it's $18.99 to $19.99. Men's Frog and Toad fishing short sleeve, light blue. It's a couple toads in a boat fishing. One is reading, and it says, "Today I will take life easy." So I don't know, Kyle, if they have a double X. Let me double check. They do in stock, and I
bet they have all of those left.
I could have that shirt in 6 hours. It says,
"Yeah,
hell yeah."
There's a deep gravity one. Oh, here's a Fleetwood Mac one.
It's not deep gravity. It's defy gravity, but I wouldn't expect you to know.
You would know.
Well, come on. Your wife doesn't. I mean, we listen to the music every once in a while. It's a pretty famous song, Defying Gravity.
Oh, I see. Defy Gravity. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We're still talking Wicked. Okay.
Yeah.
Is
Wargon
Deep Gravity a TJ
about.
Maxx?
It is well, no, that's a Target number.
This Mickey Mouse hoodie actually looks kind of dope. This crew. I mean, I still can't ever get this guy, Mykonos. He just had this Mickey Mouse T-shirt, and he looked like the coolest motherfucker in the world.
Europeans love Mickey Mouse gear as adults. It's I've noticed that. Tight, too.
They do.
Yeah.
Very tight.
You know what I really miss is like the Old Navy
collar.
The Old Navy USA shirts. They just like those ones are great.
The dog on it or like a truck.
Well, yeah, sometimes it was just a flag. Sometimes it was just a flag. Yeah, I can see it, but like there were a lot of the gray, like heather gray or whatever. They moved away from that, and I was back home in July last year, and I went to Old Navy, and I was really disappointed. But they had a lot of cool. Just speaking about guys looking cool in shirts, I thought the Old Navy America shirts were really pulled it off for a lot of dudes.
If you could send something to the chat, I'd love to check that out right now because I'm just locked. I'm adding stuff to my bag. I remember, I don't know when the law was the law was passed that if you were a male wearing a button down, you had to wear the white undershirt. It was the 90s into the early 2000s. And then I think Bush overturned it. I don't know. I forget. I don't want to get political. It was overturned. So now if you wear the white T-shirt underneath the dress shirt, it's like automatic asshole alert, I guess. So back in the day when the law was still in place, I was Mr. TJ Maxx. I mean, maybe I could afford Marshalls, but I loved grabbing 3-packs of. I always felt like it was Kenneth Cole, and he'd be like, "Hey, these are nice. These are really. I could just wear this.
Stay flat collar, yeah."
So a 3-pack of those. This is gonna look great underneath my Ike Bahars. Let's. All right. Nobody likes an Ike Bahar joke more than Van Pelt.
Love it. Out of rotation, Shirt Wednesday. Bring it back.
I know. Those things are so fucking out of rotation, we couldn't even give them away. Poor Smallman was trying to sell them for me on Poshmark. And she was so excited. Right. She was so excited. And I was like, look, I'm going to take care of you. Man. Like, your cut's going to be huge on this, but this is amazing because I just don't want to donate all of these. And then we should have really just given them away to listeners as game worn in rotation. Like, this is a Russillo
jeans that are like back in style now.
That's what I should have done, because it would have been really funny over the years to have dudes just post pictures and be like, I'm wearing a Russillo 07. Like, this is Banana Republic monogram. Like, he must have fucking thought he was the man when he left the mall with this one, Burlington Mall, after a Celtics shift. He's like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm not just getting a Banana Republic. I'm getting a fucking monogram. This is the worst life advice we've ever done.
No, this is great.
We haven't even read one yet.
No.
We should have Smallman on. By the way,
know, we should.
You know what? We should have Smallman on.
Yep.
And do life advice with us. And we can story time and then pretend we're going to read an email.
Totally
How do we never think of that? That's actually insulting.
She's busy,
so we apologize.
Yeah,
but we apologize to her on behalf of not coming up. She should just stop by. All right. Okay. It's what I'm doing considered stealing. I guess if you're getting shirts from Target, you are, because they're awesome and they're low price. Fellas, 5'10", 230, player comp, Draymond Green, undersized big man that doesn't like to shoot, tries to play make, prides himself on the defensive end. No gym stats to share since I don't max out. More of a 3 x 12 guy. All right, cool. My wife and I live in a big but walkable city. I go to a nice gym. It's a 10-minute walk from our house. Up until recently, I was able to go about 4 times a week right after work. However, this routine all changed since my wife and I welcomed our baby boy into the world a few months ago. Congratulations on behalf of all of us. Since having our son, the number of visits to the gym has dipped to a measly 2 times per week. Interjection here. You're still going. Look in the mirror. Be happy you're still going. I'm proud of you. I don't even know you. I just met you a couple of sentences ago. And since I try to maximize the time I get to spend with my son after work, I now only go later at night around 9 p.m. once my son has gone to bed. I've also stopped walking and now solely drive to the gym since I want to save all my energy for my workouts. My gym validates parking $5 for 3 hours. And since I only go 2 times a week, I figure $10 a week shouldn't break the bank. Here's lies the dilemma. 2 weeks ago, as I was leaving the gym parking lot, the car in front of me clicked the ask for assistance button at the gate kiosk. This normally rings a couple times before a gate agent answers on the kiosk speaker. But since this was late at night, after 1 minute of ringing, the gate just magically opened without the car in front of me having to pay. Being inquisitive myself, I immediately tried it as well. And after 1 minute of ringing, the same thing happened and I drove away without having to pay. Since the first instance, I've done this 3 additional times without paying. During today's gym session, I noticed that management has now put up a poster that says failure of pay may result in prosecution. Sounds like they got a broken gate.
Yeah.
Jigs up.
Yeah. The sign should say, we're going to try to scare you, but our gate's broken. This scared me enough to pay this time around. Oh, fear worked here, especially since there are cameras near the exit. What would you recommend I do? Should I be honest and pay back the $20 I technically owe them? Do I just pay going forward and look fondly on those 2.5 weeks of free parking? Do I continue to hack until they fix it and or send me to jail? There was an immediate no there, Kyle, on the payback concept, the payback option, I should say.
Just the concept of paying for parking at a place that you're going to, that you already pay to go to, or even work at, if it's one of those places, that's just ridiculous. So, I mean, that's just one of those like systems that's like a predatory system. So if you like those 2 weeks, like those are your glory days. I can't honestly say if I wouldn't just keep trying to like, oh, really? Are we going to like, you're going to send me clips attached to an email with my termination of my gym membership? Like what, how does this work? But you know, if you don't want to rock the boat, maybe just, sorry, I'm overstimulated.
His real name is Clarence.
It's a single digit lead over here. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
But if you don't want to rock the boat, I guess maybe you're done. Maybe you could like talk to some other guys at the gym and be like, dude, you know, if you push the button, it opens, and see what happens to them. I don't know. But I definitely wouldn't feel bad. Like you found a hole in a rotten system for a couple weeks. You're not paying that money back. Keep that 20 in your wallet like it's the first dollar you ever made or something. But yeah, I'd like to find a way to test the limits to see if that's just like Ryan said, that's just scaring you. That's like saying we've got cameras rolling when we don't. But I guess if you want to be an adult, you know, maybe just look fondly on those 2 weeks.
You definitely shouldn't pay it back. Like that's already a win for you.
Do not pay it back. Like the tribunal is telling you.
Yeah, that's insane. I just don't feel like this is worth what I don't, who knows? Like, could you actually get arrested for this? Like, is it really worth like, you know, getting this like little one over on the gym for the parking situation to like have an actual consequence be in your future? If it's not that big of a deal, I'd probably stop. Clearly, like it might just be a scare tactic, but like, why would you press your luck in that way? You know, like if they actually have like maybe an undercover cop hanging around looking for people doing this, and you're the guy that gets screwed. I'm just saying, like, who knows? Like, you never know, and you're the one guy that gets screwed. Like, that's just I wouldn't. It's probably not worth it in my opinion.
Well, this is a very age-related answer for me because there was a stage where there's no entity in the world I hate more than anyone affiliated with parking. Whether you ran a garage, worked at it, gave out tickets, the city, boots, towing, signs. I hated all of you. I fucking hated you because I lived in Boston and I bought an apartment that was supposedly had parking because it was like a non-starter. It was a non-starter. Will not look at anything
unless you're lied to.
Right. And then the realtor kind of fucked it up. The guy who was the listing agent and the seller lied. And then all of a sudden I was living on Com Ave without parking. And especially once I was commuting back and forth from ESPN, like there's not a ton of spots at 4 a.m. rolling in after this all night shift. So my war, like a racist would be like, oh, the northern section of that country. Like I have nothing to do with them. That's how I felt about people with parking. So if I had access to this hack, you could mail me letters, you could sign. I'm not doing shit. I'm hitting that buzzer and I'm leaving for free. I don't care that because it was like an ethics thing with me that I was so down in the parking game financially over the years where you would just go, I don't care. There's nothing I can do to even get back to even. But if I have access to something that balances the ledger a bit more in my favor, I would just keep hitting that button forever. And then when somebody caught me, I would just be like, what?
I pushed assistance. What the hell? I'm not riding a guy's bumper out of here.
No, I brought it in before. And,
you're right. Younger, this is an age thing because younger me, like, you know how many parking tickets I had unpaid in West Hartford when I was living there? I was like, yeah, these don't matter. Was this like a coupon? I don't really care.
Did they?
No, I don't think I ever did pay it. But
wow. I love it. You know what, though?
You change your name? What the hell?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
There's a long story of why I actually didn't get charged these that I don't want to share on the podcast.
Okay.
But I could share off air. But yeah, but older me is like, I don't know, like, what's the, like,
yeah,
why?
it's shit to lose, guy. That's why I do most of the things I do now.
It's also $5. Okay, it's also $5. And
right, but think about this: how many dollars a day is it to go to a gym for a month? Like how many? That's more. It's more to park there than it is to go to the gym. If you went every day, if you broke it down. I mean, I know the guy's saying it's $10 a week, but still.
The fact that he's even presenting, should I go back and pay it, tells me this guy's a very fucked up guy, right? He might even be like on the line of like, you might be like annoyingly concerned with some things if you've even suggested us, because I don't know that there's anybody that's gonna be like, hey, will there be an email from somebody to be like, I actually manage a parking garage, and considering our overhead, electricity, and security, and all of these different
margins
things,
are thin.
God, please read that email if it comes
right. There's always one, and it might be fake, so maybe I won't even read it now because I've given you the idea. But this is something where there's as divided as we can be on certain topics. I have a hard time believing there's many people on the other side of like, do the right thing and get square with the parking garage, because every one of us, almost anybody who's lived in a somewhat dense area, has all of these horror stories about the parking stuff. And look, I'd say a lot of them are all of our faults, but the time when it isn't, you are just filled with this absolute supreme rage. Honestly, the Burlington stuff was even worse than Boston, not because of the options, because the Boston options were worse for me, but Burlington was a fucking free-for-all. It was like the wild, wild west where these tow trucks were just allowed to just tow everybody, even if you weren't necessarily wrong.
Yeah, if you were suspected.
You just start towing people all over the place, and then they bring your car to like some other town. Be like, how is this legal? How are you allowed to operate and do this kind of stuff? So anyway, don't pay it back. Sounds like you should probably pay the $5 because you have a guilty level that maybe induces guilt a little bit more, which might be a good thing. You might just be better than a lot of other people. By the way, just checking real quick, St. John's 37-26 halftime. That's the only one we're doing because the St. John's and because Kyle has to tape. And look, we were going to do mail it in Thursday or mail it in Friday and tape it today, but that's why it's called Mail It In. We're just doing it next week. St. John's.
Pushing it back.
So, no, we're doing it next week because everybody has all these taping things. So thank you to Kyle. Thank you to Ceruti. Thanks to Wargon. Not great today. And Jonathan Frias. It's Ryen Russillo podcast.
Wargon would have had some stuff on the Wicked compo if we let him, but that's all right.
I know. We were just on a heater. Once we started talking about small
family-owned parking garages all over the country. Yeah, I don't know. Something.
I know. I don't. Well, we'll find out Tuesday, won't we? That's a good reason to come back. Make sure you check out our YouTube page, even though we promised something would happen this week. It'll be next week. The Ryen Russillo podcast, Ringer, Spotify. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.